Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Keys to AWS Optimization. We're excited to talk a little bit about organizations, AWS organizations, and how they work with FinOps and how they can help you save, how they can help you structure your costs, and something that I'm very passionate about with account structures and OUs. But we'll be getting onto that in a minute with my two guests. I've got Grant on. Hi, Grant. Hope you're doing good. And then we'll also have Alex coming on a halfway mark to chat a little bit about that. And don't forget to stick around to the very end of the episode to check out Secret Richard's summary. Before we get into today's episode, I do have a couple of housekeeping bits that I will be kicking off with. But chat, make sure you're saying hi in the chat. We want to hear from you. We want to see what's going on with things that you're doing and whereabouts you're from and stuff like that. But a couple of housekeeping. I will be on another Twitch show. I know I'm taking over on the training and certification Twitch series for free tier. So if you want to work out how to spend no money in AWS, join me for 4 weeks starting next week over there on Fridays in the, it's going to be American morning. Just a vague title. But this lovely URL below will be all the information on it, number one. Number two, I will be at FinOps X in Europe, Barcelona, in a couple of weeks' time. If you're coming, come say hi. That's my big plug. Come to the Amazon booth. I will be there most of the time. Just come and say hi. Number three, I will also be at reInvent. We mentioned this last time, but as per usual, we'll be the optics team are doing a big show at reInvent. We have all of these sessions, all the FinOps sessions. Check them all out, add them to your agendas, add them to your decisions to go to reInvent, all the fun stuff. And second to last, sorry, Grant, I promise. There's all these housekeeping elements, which is not very exciting, but they're good to have at the start. I had a new blog published recently. I just wanted to highlight this one, all about how to optimize Athena query storage. So I just wanted to shout that out for people. And the very last thing is next week is Halloween. We are doing our infamous Halloween episodes where we'll be actually assembling, Avengers Assemble style, the best FinOps team that we can construct based on lots of different members of the Optics and Extended Optics team. Yes, there will be fancy dress. Yes, I'll be trying to scare Savannah again like I did last year. So make sure you tune in to that one. But without further ado, welcome to Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. Hopefully you all know me as Steph Gooch, your friendly neighborhood optimization expert. And with me today is Grant Britton. Grant, finally over to you. Do you want to say hi and give us your 1-minute origin story?
Sure. Thanks, Steph. Hi, everyone. I'm Grant Britton. I'm a senior solutions architect for AWS. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. I've been with AWS for about 4 years now and worked with many customers on different issues, right? Broadly at AWS, and more specifically around cloud operations.
Nice.
Also have I'm married with 2 kids and 2 cats. So that's me
Two
in 1
cats.
minute.
So I'm just like focusing on the cat. As soon as someone has a pet, I'm immediately like, what are your cats called?
So Bally and Tater.
Oh,
Yes.
I like the names.
A
Your
Siamese
yeah.
and a American Tabby. So
Oh, very cool. I have to get a picture later, just for me, just so I can see the pets. Love it. So we are going to be talking about organizations. And I've just realized I've flipped the order around of my guests, haven't I? Yeah, I can see Alex being like, no, you're not talking about organizations. There's two options now. Alex, I'm gonna bring you on. This is a big blunder. So I'm coming to bring Alex in. Hi, Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I just had a moment. I don't know what's wrong with me today, guys. I had a slip up. Alex is meant to be my first guest. So what we'll do is, Alex, I'll bring you on now, intro you. Grant, we'll send you off for a bit and bring you back on to do, and stick around because I found Grant through his blog that we're going to be showcasing a demo of. And that's what I'm going to go into today. So Alex, do you want to introduce yourself and then we'll let Grant go for a sec.
Yeah, of course. I'm also a solutions architect here in AWS. I've been with AWS for a little bit over 5 years now. I work with a lot of customers, and now I'm on media entertainment. But I focus a lot on helping customers get on, kind of like set up their organizations and kind of get started out of the ground.
Yeah.
And FinOps has always been one of my passions. So I'm really happy to be sharing what I've learned over the last few years with you all.
Amazing. Okay. All right. We'll say bye to Grant for now. And Alex is going to talk us through how FinOps relates to organizations. It feels like a Monday. Anyway, we'll see you in a bit, Grant. Okay, Alex, let's get into the stuff. At least it was the housekeeping, and I looked over to my notes and went, "Oh no, cloud
All
without
good.
nice save." I was like, "Is it a nice save?"
It is. It is.
Like a womp womp. Okay, Alex, let's get into this. So, do you want to intro a bit? Because we talked a lot of different elements of this, but do you want to set the scene of how you mentioned you love talking about FinOps, how FinOps relate to things like CCOEs or a general kind of cloud ops structure?
Yeah. So when we start thinking about, like cloud teams and start building the team that manages the cloud, right? FinOps has to be one of those things that is taken into account. It's a role that is kind of in between. So when I talk to a lot of customers and they ask me how do I manage my costs and everything, right? Like I always say that you need kind of to have a little team, whether it is one person or a few of them, depending on the side of the organization and the customer that I'm working with, but
Yeah.
between 1 and 3 teams that have like understanding on how finance works, how operations works, so kind of a little in the middle. And you definitely want somebody that is able to kind of write a little bit of code or at least understand it so they can start applying some of the automation and policies in place, right?
Mm.
So the FinOps persona when it comes to cloud is like a critical component of that team and sometimes overlooked or overworked, but it's key for success in a way, right? And that's kind of what I've noticed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I was back in the day when I was in a FinOps team, I was actually in the CCOE when they started the role of FinOps, when I just made up a role of FinOps. And so I agree. The best thing, and I think you kind of touched on this, is like you need that centralized point, because there shouldn't be, you can have FinOps champions, is what we see a lot of, and like individual teams has someone who's an advocate for it. But being in the middle with everybody to see and overlook what's going on an organization level is super important. And I'd love to know in the audience, let's do a quick poll. Everyone knows I love a big poll. I'd love to know who is in a CCOE at the moment. So audience chatter, 1 for yes, 2 for no. Are you in a CCOE now / have you been? I was in one before, and drop those in. But while they're looking in, while people are kind of voting on that, when you work with your customers, have you like encouraged them to develop their kind of CCOE practice and include a FinOps role?
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things that I like. A lot of the customers that I actually talk to is like, hey, this team cannot be fully isolated. Like they need
Yeah.
to be part of the decisions on how the environments are built, because
Yeah.
if not, then one of the, I think the most important things that I try to make sure is that when people build on the cloud, they make sure that they build being cost aware,
Yeah.
right? Like there was last year at reInvent, our CTO had that talk that was like, start building with cost in mind, like with
Oh, yes.
cost
Yeah.
constraints.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like the way that we should kind of go, like making sure that if you include the FinOps role in that CCOE, it's a lot easier for the entire cloud team to be able to, like take them into account and use their tools and do things right. So
Yeah. The frugal architect.
yes,
That's the one. I'd recommend checking that out, everybody. And it seems like not many people are in a CCOE. So I know we have some Amazon folks on here, but interesting that a lot of people are not centralized. So let us know in the chat what teams you are in. That would be insightful. So let's get into, I mean, do you want to jump into organizations now and kind of start to talk about what those things are?
yeah, definitely. Let me
All right.
share
You're going to
a
share the screen.
screen.
But yeah, so
Really
what we
quick.
want to do is, I really believe that organizations are a key structure to this. And I often advise customers that are new to start utilizing this structure to help them. And Alex is going to start explaining it, because I don't think we mentioned it a little bit, but we haven't gone into great detail about what these things are.
Yeah. So basically, Organizations is a service that we released a few years ago, right? With the main idea of actually helping customers group different accounts for billing purposes. Like that was the origin of Organizations. Over the last few years, it evolved to not only just group accounts for the purpose of billing, but in order to be able to apply controls and to group accounts and just making a bit easier for managing, right? And one of the main features that Organizations bring is, for example, policies, managed policies, right? And one of them are SCPs. They're used to enforce invariants. Like if you don't want something happening in an organization unit, and an organizational unit, when you think about it in the organization perspective, is a folder. It's a folder where you put accounts, or at least that's the way that I like to think about it. And right, there is other type of policies, right? There is tag policies, backup policies, and there is a lot of other integrations that organizations actually brings. But the main idea is to just make it a lot easier for you, like from the service perspective, to centralize the management of all services, FinOps, CloudOps, networking, security. So kind of moving in that direction, right? Like that's kind of what we recommend, organizing the accounts in different folders. So I promise I don't have a lot of slides.
Don't worry, there's only 3 guys. I know we're an anti-slide thing, but I was like, this is quite good to see, especially the one before where you have the different breakouts. I think mentally people can like envision it from now. Go.
So what I wanted to talk about this, right? And why do we actually recommend organizing accounts in a certain way? And the reason is, it's like if you're on your computer and you put your files all on your desktop, or if you have little folders, like it just makes things a lot easier to find, to control, to delete, to do everything. So when you look from that perspective, having different folders or different organizational units helps you apply the policies where they need to go, whether they're a tag policy or deploying things across the organization. And that's something that Grant is going to show you, and it's really cool, right? But how do you deploy things consistently everywhere, right? So that's kind of why we recommend all of these things. And of course, organizational units and the organizations itself, the service is free of charge. So there is nothing to worry about this. You can just create as many OUs as you want and just group your accounts together, right? That's the main idea.
Yeah, and so just to like double down into this, the idea I think that really helps people connect this a lot is things like chargeback. That's when people use this, because you can extract this data from your organizations. We have in the, obviously we've got to shout out the intelligence labs. Where's my intelligence? Oh, I've lost it. The intelligence dashboards. In there, there's the optimization data collector. And God, what's wrong with me today? I'm so slow and I'm trying to talk. The optimization data collector, which is a data lake, which pulls in lots of data. If you heard us do the draft episode, you heard me talk about this one. But what it does is it also extracts information from your OU. So we can append that to your cost and usage report. And then you could charge back based on the OU. And like what's in the kind of picture here, you have kind of different workloads and different deployments and production, non-production. If you have to apply these kind of logical things to it, you can group them together. But the things like the tag policies and the SCPs are also really exciting when it comes to cost prevention, which we can talk about in a second. Oh, we've got a question in the chat before we move on. So what is the best way to manage multiple AWS organizations? So maybe when it comes to a cost perspective, like do you encourage people to smush it all together, or is it okay to have multiple organizations?
So that's a tricky question, but you can actually, like, we recommend to have one organization. Like that's just easier, right? But there is cases like maybe you want to have a test organization because you don't want to make changes in production. So you can have a smaller one to try new features, right? Maybe there's a new service integration and you don't know how that works, or and you don't want to, like start applying things to every single account. So that's where you would have a separate organization or a separate management account. Another use case that I see has 2 countries and they have to pay in 2 different currencies, right? So you can have 2 organizations, one for euros and one for dollars, for example. Tax purposes and all those type of things just makes it a bit easier if you have all of that. It can be done within one organization, but it's just easier sometimes if you split it, depending on the size.
Yeah, perfect. And just for fun, I love people. GoStudy, I think that says hi. Anybody who uses the emoji things, like I love them. So please feel free. There's so many in there. Drop them as much as you want in the comments. But Alex, sorry, let's continue on to. I think you said you had one more slide.
Yeah.
To cover.
So when you think about from the FinOps perspective, right? You're not going to be managing the folders per se, but you will be managing some of the integrations. So when you look at this consolidation and optimization of costs or the policies, right? That's probably where you will be focusing on. You'll be managing some of the SCPs, some of the tag policies. And we'll look at a few services that integrate with organizations. Like I'm going to show you how I have some of the things set up. But basically, you can look at cost across all the accounts, right, centrally. And that helps you quite a bit to identify different pieces like, hey, this account is spending too much money, or this group of accounts, sandbox accounts or development accounts. You can group them all together, right? And it's like a lot easier for you to identify anomalies or like reward people that are actually building right things and to keep the cost low and things like that, right? Like gamifying a little bit that role of FinOps. So
yeah, for sure. And I like this kind of, I'm definitely going to slack you being like, can I have these slides? Because I think enforcing these kind of policies, and we're going to touch on things like SCPs in a moment, but one more, I think it's Warbatu. I could never pronounce some of these handles. For multiple organizations, the answer at the moment is move to a single organization, and has kindly put in a link to a blog post on that. So thank you so much in the chat. But yeah, let's get into doing a bit of a demo maybe then to showcase what these things actually look like in the account. So as a reminder, if you've joined us, people have been joining us, we're talking about organizations, AWS organizations, and how they fit into the world of FinOps. First of all, with Alex, and then we're going to go into a super cool demonstration of a solution with Grant in a bit. So this is, again, let's have a look at how you use AWS organizations.
So this is my console. And like if you go here in organizations, right, this is the portion that I was mentioning. You go into services, and let me zoom in a little because it's zoom out for some reason.
I was just going to say that.
So basically, like this is all the services, what I was saying, that integrate with organizations. I think that is over 40 now. I can't keep track of all the things that we release. But this is what allows you to kind of centrally manage all of this. And the services that I wanted to focus on a little bit and show you is like, how you call it, compute optimizer, for example,
right.
Or if I know how to type compute optimize.
Oh, is it?
What is my compute optimizer? Right here, right?
Oh, it's there. We're like panicking. Where did it go?
Yes. So you have it, like I have it enabled, right? And what this means basically is that my management account can access all the accounts in the organization and can pull information from it. So when you click on it, right, and you go to the console of the actual service, here you see that all my accounts are opt-in, which means that all my accounts are being tracked.
Yeah.
Right. And when you go from here, if you go to EC2 instances, and all my things are in Oregon because I'm in Seattle, and there is nothing here now. Great. I promise I had things. Actually, I need to pick the right account. Right. So like if I want to pick up here, right, you would see very quickly all the goodies, which account has recommendations and stuff like that, right? And I don't have to go to each of the accounts to find this. I can just look at it centrally, which is one of those really cool things that you can do when you centralize things. And you're part of that CloudOps team, right? Because the CloudOps team is typically the one that manages this management account. So
I was to say the good thing about this is that FinOps people and central people are viewing the recommendations. It doesn't mean you have to act on them. You are the ones who are supposed to be reviewing stuff and keeping stuff in track.
Exactly. And with that, what you can do is kind of work with the teams, tell them, hey, you have this that is over provision. So you get involved with all the teams that they're building, you help them, which is really, really cool, right? And from that side, right, like the other thing that I wanted to show you is like the policies, right? And this is like the different policies that we have here. We have service control policies, chatbot policies. This is actually, no, it just got released a couple days ago.
Okay.
I haven't used them yet. So if not, I would walk you a little bit more through them.
Don't worry.
But and then we have backup policies and AI services policies, right? So I'll start with these two, like service. So the idea of using service control policies and tagging policies is kind of to build that kind of guardrail or control around what resources can be created and how you can help other teams to actually keep track of their spend. So you could build like a tagging strategy, and you could enforce it with service control policies and tag policies. So an example would be well, let's start with tag policies. I don't have it enabled. So the reason you would just come here, you would enable these policies, and ta-da, you can start applying policies. It's very simple.
Right.
So the way that I had this, and just you will see what I have. I'll just bring this up here, and I'll zoom in here just a second. But this is one SCP and one tag policy that I have, right? And I grabbed this out of a blog post, so I'll make sure that I share that too. But the main idea, when you look at the tag policy, there is two tag policies: the cost center and the team. So what we basically do is, this is my cost tag policy, right? And I don't need to add a tag here. So this would be my tag key, and how you do all of, like, you can just do that manually. So the idea is this would be the tag center, like the tag key.
Oh.
So you just do cost center.
Okay.
So you don't have to be
Okay.
like these are just if you are applying them via CLI.
Oh,
can-
okay. So this is the UI way of doing it.
Yeah, this is the UI.
I
way
don't
of
think I've
doing
ever
it.
done it in the UI. Okay, I haven't even done it in JSON. I'm like looking at the screen, like I have no idea. I
Yeah.
think that the business is easy to understand.
Yes, it is very simple to create them here, right?
Yeah.
So it's just so easy. So when you go like here, you see like if there is the assign key, that's the tag key, and this is the tag values that are allowed. So you just click here and you specify the values. Super easy, right? You don't have to like get on the CLI, get permissions for all of that. If sometimes you don't have that skill set. It's very simple. So you change that there, and then you can just do like, if you want to enforce them here, you can do like this resource types. In this case, we're going to do EC2 instance, right? And that's it. Like you have just the policy created.
So just to go back, so we make sure everyone's on the same page here. People are laughing in the chat because there might have been a spelling mistake on the title. So there's some funny chat comments going on. But so with tag policies, you set them up in here, and when you create them, you can say what the tag key is, and then what the allowed tag values are.
Yes.
And also what enforces on. So for example, if I tried to deploy an EC2 instance and I typed in my tag cost center and I typed in CC104, it would stop me deploying it?
Yes, because that value is not allowed in here. Like this would only allow to have these two cost centers, right? So you want to make sure that if you are applying the tag, it's only these two values that are allowed.
What happens if I don't have a cost center tag? Would it still block me from doing it?
No, it will not block you from doing it. So that's why you do. That's to make sure that there is no like a cost center that doesn't exist. So once you apply this, right, like you have this, you can attach it. Like, so let me just attach it to my workloads, right? So you see what I'm saying here too. So now that this is attached, every tag that is tag cost center will need to have those values. In order to prevent resources to be created without the policy, then you need to actually do an SCP. The SCP prevents actions to happen. So here, for example, what we would do is we create a different policy, which is the SCP cost control, right? And here, like this is a little, no, that's better. Maybe you can sum up a little. Yeah. So this is the SCP, right? And the SCP is just basically, we're going to deny every single action done to an instance, like here on the right side, right? We're going to make sure that nobody can delete the tags because that's important. We don't want people deleting tags. And we want to make sure that the tags actually are attached. So that's this condition here. The cost center tag has always need to be on the API in order for the resource to be created. So if the tag is missing, you wouldn't be able to create the resource.
Okay.
Right. So basically, we'll just pick up this thing here. I think it's the same twice. No, we don't need that. It's okay. And you just paste it here. And basically, what this is doing is what I just said, right? It doesn't allow you to either delete tags or anything of that sort. But you could add another EC2 run instance, right? So this would not allow you to run the instance if this is missing, right? So that's the way that you would do it.
Yeah. So just again, to summarize and make sure I've got it correct, is so if you want to make sure that resources have the tag in the first place, then they set the SCP up, and that will be a requirement. So if you wanted to, for example, this one, if you wanted to deploy a new instance, it has to have this tag. And just to really emphasize, if it does not, it will not, you can't deploy it. It will be blocked at like a permissions level. So this is a very powerful thing. Especially if you're newer to the FinOps world, I would recommend not just going out and deploying some of these or creating some of these, because they're very, very powerful. And also the error that comes back to developers is not explicit that it comes from an SCP. So they don't know how to work backwards from that. So yeah, this is powerful. But anything else you want to show on here?
We updated the error message. So now it says it's blocked by an SCP. It doesn't tell you which one, but it says it's blocked by an SCP. So at least you can see a little bit of where the error it's coming from. That's also semi-new. I think we updated that about a couple months ago. So.
Oh, perfect. Well, I love to be corrected in that kind of thing, because that means Amazon is listening to customers, which is really great. Because I remember setting it up once and I was like, what is this? And I was like, I don't know. And then it was like, oh, I put an SCP up. I do it on my own accounts anyway. Anything else you want to show us now? Otherwise, we could definitely have a bit of a discussion before Grant comes on about doing this in scale and whatnot.
Yeah. So the last thing that I wanted to show, this is something that I worked on a couple weeks ago with a lot of the very smart FinOps people. So I'll share this link with everybody, but I think I'll put in a second. But you have here like how to allocate costs, like how to implement it, the different all the things, all the goodies we have to like build that FinOps practice within your CCOE. There is a lot of really good updated information here on how to do things on the AWS. Yeah.
I'll put this up there. Here we go. So that thank you for going through that. And I think so maybe we could just have a quick 2-minute discussion before Grant comes on. When it comes to, so someone's watching this and they've thought, oh well, this is really cool, I can deal with all my tagging issues by setting up some tag policies and some SCPs. What is some guidance that you have for customers when they're starting out with this, and also if they have a large organization?
So the first thing is like I share, like the two things that I shared is how to apply a tag policy and how to enforce it. I would start small. I would pick like, hey, how do I make sure that I see who's tagging their resources or not, right? And maybe just start with monitoring who's applying tags and how the tags go, and how do you start looking at things centrally. Start looking at from that perspective. And as you get more familiar, not only with tag policies, but with all the other cool features that you can get centrally, like Cost Explorer, and like start creating cost categories and like grouping resources, all those type of things, like little by little, and you expand. And the way that I've found that a lot of customers are really successful by doing this is by gamifying FinOps, like celebrating the little wins, like who's the one that saved the most this month, or I was able, like sharing the stories on how people actually optimize their environments, how FinOps is involved into that, the FinOps team, and how that benefits the business. And it's really powerful, like to see, and very fun, in my opinion, to see how, all those teams kind of work together and build these really cool things. So
yeah, definitely. And let us know if anybody, just as a small plug, if anyone has done this and wants to share their story, feel free to email us costoptimization@amazon.com. And if you're, as I haven't said this yet, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button to make sure you stay up to date with all the amazing content that we produce. Or if you're watching us live on Twitch, hit that subscribe button, because there are loads of other shows going on. Any final bits you want to say before we flip on over to Grant?
I'll also be at reInvent, so if anybody wants to grab a coffee or anything, feel free to hit me up, and I'm more than happy to, Steph and I will be there, so happy to hang out and talk about any AWS related stuff. So
amazing. Yeah, all the FinOps crew. I'm excited to kind of get into that. I'm doing lots of prep for I haven't gone into like crazy prep mode where I'm doing it constantly, but I've only doing one session this year. Last year I did 4, so it's very like calm in comparison.
Mellow.
Yeah, it's quite nice. I'm like, I should be stressed. I'm not anyway. All right, thank you so much, Alex. Alex.
Of course.
All right, let's flip over to Grant. We'll see you in just a second. Hey, Grant. Welcome back.
Yes, I'm back.
I can't believe that I got you guys. I think it's because you were very punctual and arrived first, and so in my head I was like, Grant must be going on first, and got myself confused, which is very funny. But before we dive into your very very awesome blog, let's do a quick poll. So I want to know who uses AWS Organizations. Hopefully I've spelled it right this time, in comparison to the last time. But while people are doing this, do you want to give us a quick overview of maybe even there's a blog we're going to go into which you wrote, but what gave you inspiration for the blog you wrote? Was it a customer or was it something that you came up with out of curiosity?
It was both. So, when I was a customer and working with many other customers since I've been at AWS, the need for, sandbox accounts that could be effectively managed was almost universal across most organizations.
Okay, good to know. And a lot of people in the chat are, yes, they have it. Some people are no, which is interesting. But let's give us a breakdown of this awesome blog. I'll just post the link up here. So give us a quick overview of what it is, what it does, and all that.
Sure. So the problem we're trying to solve here is most organizations and leadership want their people, developers, to have the ability to train, learn AWS as well as innovate, do experiments. But what they don't want is for them to do that in a way that could unintentionally harm like SDLC workloads, and also in a way that can be cost controlled. Because when you give someone new to AWS, unfettered access, they may not know FinOps yet, right? Or what resources do what things, and they could spin up a bunch of databases and EC2s and other services, and that cost can, get pretty high, right? And then again, with the SDLC workloads, a lot of customers, especially new customers, will have sort of these mega accounts. And one of those will be their mega dev account, which is where development is done and infrastructure is provisioned for workloads that are then going to get pushed to QA, staging, and production. But then they'll also use that account for the sandbox. So people are in there experimenting in an account that has SDLC workloads in it, and you can see how things could go wrong there, right? Someone could unintentionally impact one of those workloads, delete a resource, things like that. So what I did was I tried to come up with an architecture that would solve for that. Let me share my screen for just a minute while I'm talking about that.
And I'll just bring up a quick comment. I found the Easter egg. It's the keys to AWS organization. And that should have been the title. I realize now that was a much better title for this episode. So thank you in the chat for that. Yeah, there we go, Brant.
All right, let me get into presentation mode so you can see this. All right, so what the solution does is there is a CloudFormation template that I wrote that defines a sandbox environment that has a specific role for someone to log in to take on as they go into the sandbox, and it has a budget that you can set a monthly spend limit for the sandbox, and also has controls in place to, when that budget is exceeded, take away their access, right? So that they can't spend any more money until the next month. And if you look at the top here, the provisioning, and you'll see all this in the demo in a minute, we're using Account Factory in AWS Control Tower to provision the accounts, and we're using Account Factory customization to put a blueprint on top of that. And what a blueprint does is allows you to customize sort of the vanilla account that you would provision in Control Tower. And it's using that CloudFormation that I referenced to make it into the sandbox account. Then within the sandbox account, there's sort of the two big pieces of functionality. So how do you lock down the account? So you'll see here, there's a budget that is created in the account, and there are alerts for warnings. So like 50%, 80% of this configurable so that you can subscribe to an SNS topic and let the user know when they are getting closer to their limit. But then when that limit actually gets hit or exceeded, it publishes to a separate topic. And there is a Lambda that is triggered by that topic. And what that Lambda does is it goes to this sandbox developer role and it locks it down, changes it to read only so that they can't do anything else in that account, can't create any more resources.
Mhm.
Then at the beginning of the following month, the budget's automatically going to go back to zero because it's a monthly budget. There's a scheduled event that's going to run at midnight on the 1st, and that uses another Lambda to restore access to the sandbox developer role so that now they can do everything they could do before in their sandbox until they hit their limit again.
Okay, a nice way of setting in some automated controls so we don't spend more. Anything else in the diagram before you want to go into the demo? Otherwise,
Not really. I mean, again, like you said, it automates the provisioning of sandboxes in general,
which
but
is
then
cool.
also because of the budget aspect, it has that governance
Yeah.
of the sandbox as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I love, obviously, we love automation on this channel as much as you can say it and do it is always really good. And I think utilizing the elements of Amazon budgets that already exist to kind of do some of that work for you is really smart. The thing that we spoke about this before that I wanted to highlight as well before we go into the demo is it means that if you deploy, if the role has no access, it's not that it's going to delete everything. It's just that developer can't build anymore. So it will keep spending money for a little bit, just FYI, so it's something to note. But someone else could go clean it up, or you could like that might trigger something else. But this isn't going to delete anything in the accounts because there are some things that do that. I don't know much about them. I remember there being like lots of tools. We might touch on that in a bit. But yeah, it would just stop the developer having access. And we have a question in the chat. Is that budget for a set amount or can it adjust with automated forecasting? So is it a number that you set strict or that's going to happen when you hit that number, or is it going to be a forecasting number in the budget?
so right now in the demo that I'm going to show, it is a strict budget, but budgets does have the ability to use a forecasted number, and that would just be a matter of taking the CloudFormation and changing it to use that. If you wanted, one reason I use CloudFormation for this is because it makes it very flexible, because everything you see here can be altered to your specific organization's needs, since there's no such thing as one size fits all. So
For sure, for sure. And you've had some great feedback already. Awesome. And nice job. People are really enjoying this. Thanks, Grant. Really useful. Everyone's enjoying some good examples there. Right, but let's demo it. Don't worry, guys, we're not gonna be sitting waiting for CloudFormation. What we're gonna do is look at some of the key elements to it of how it's deployed, and that way you can hopefully maybe test this at home or at least get some inspiration of how you can deploy things in your own organization.
yeah, thanks. So what I'm in here now, I have two accounts we're going to be using. The account in my Firefox is my Control Tower management account. And we don't have time to go deep into Control Tower now if you're not familiar with it, but Control Tower integrates very closely with AWS Organizations. Control Tower is our managed service for creating and managing your landing zone, including controls and configuration, things like that, as well as the account vending machine. And so we're going to use Account Factory. And before I go into there, I'll show you how to create a blueprint for Account Factory. So the way you create a blueprint is just to create a product and service catalog. So if you're familiar with Service Catalog, you create products, using either CloudFormation or Terraform that can then be standardized and, consumed across your organization. In this case, we have Sandbox Blueprint. Just a quick rundown, how you create it is you create product, and this one's using CloudFormation. And this is all on the blog too that we'll talk about in a minute if you want to go through it. And we'll say Sandbox and put in owner. And this is not specific to Blueprint. This is how you would create any product in Service Catalog. In this case, we're using a template file. There is a YAML CloudFormation AWS Sandbox, and this is available on AWS Samples for anyone to consume. And there is a link to that in the blog as well. And you can create a version, do 1.0. Don't need to fill out the rest of this, all optional. And then you hit create product. Not going to do that now since I've already created one. And there you go. So just in a couple of minutes, you have a new product there. And that's
it would
required.
be as I say, it'd be funny if you went to do it and then it was like, no, you need to have a tag from Alex's tag policy.
Yes.
Or SCP.
Yeah, I don't have that SCP enabled in my account, so we don't have to worry about it. Uh, so,
Anyways.
so let's go back into Account Factory. And Account Factory, again, is the account vending machine if you're using AWS Control Tower, right? It allows you to create accounts, standardized accounts in your Control Tower environment with all your configured guardrails in place. And that's great, but most teams or have their own needs, and there's different types of accounts. And so
Yeah.
to help the teams get started quicker and avoid having to manually set things up or have their own automation, you can have these blueprints. So whether it is a web developer account or a data science account, or in this case a sandbox account, you can layer that on top of the account you're provisioning. And so we'll go through here and show it. I've already created an account, so that we don't have to wait for it. But testdemo.com, just making this up. So when you create an account, just like any AWS account, you have to do a unique email address. And, in this case, we're doing sandbox account. It's the display name. And then you can enter in your identity center information. Identity center is the way to federate into your AWS accounts with SSO. If your company, if you have a portal you go to and it shows all the accounts you have access and the roles, that's identity center. And you select the OU. You've already got sandbox in here. And if we just stop there and hit create account, it would create an account in our landing zone, but it would be that vanilla account with nothing else added.
Okay.
What we want is more. So you got to go into the Account Factory customization. And the first thing you've got to do is validate account. So this is not best practice, but it's a demo. You should have a separate account, where a separate centralized account for any of those shared service catalog products that is not your management account, because your Control Tower and Organizations management account should only be used for that. But again, demo, so same account. And then you need to validate account to validate that you have permission to access that catalog. I do. And then you select the blueprint you want. And in this case, it is that sandbox blueprint. And you select the version. And then you see all the parameters. So this is very configurable. I'm not going to go through all these parameters, but there's a lot of parameters so that it's more flexible, right? And you see it has the currency, what the budget limit is, in this case, $100 US. It has thresholds for warnings, for locking the sandbox. You can change the names of the roles, like sandbox developer is the default name of the role, things like that.
Yeah. So that one that's the one that gets locked down, right? So that's the one that you
Yes.
could keep use it as a role to manage the people. Okay, great. Keep going.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to select home region here and create account. Again, not going to do it since I've already done that. And then this will take a few minutes, to create the account. Once the account's up, it will layer the blueprint on top of it, and you'll get your email that you have a new AWS account, right? All that fun stuff. And then you're off to the races.
Nice. So just to come back in. So using these tools in Control Tower means that it will deploy the whole account for you, but with all that CloudFormation that you mentioned before and all the diagram that you had set up for you, all kind of
yes,
done.
that is what the blueprint does. So if you don't use the customization with a blueprint, it will deploy an account that has all of your landing zone guardrails enforced on that account, and it will do audit logging and all of those kind of nice things that Control Tower brings. But to get the additional customization for a specific account type, that's where the blueprint is used.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
And in my Chrome here, this is a sandbox account that I created yesterday using that process that I just showed you.
Lovely.
And I'm logged in as admin so that I can see and do more than the sandbox developer role. I'll switch to that in a minute. So if we look in here, just to show the things that it created. Oh, great. Of course, my account timed out. So, because it's a live demo, right? So I'll go back into my identity center, which is what that is, and just log back in. So good. Didn't take long. But yeah. So I'll go into IAM first. And let's look at roles. Let's search for sandbox. And you'll see there's 2 roles, and these were both created by the blueprint. There is sandbox control lambda role, and that's just the role that is used for the Lambdas that I'm going to show in a minute. They run under that
Mhm.
role. And then the sandbox developer role is the role that the user will use to access the sandbox. And this is how we
Ah,
control the access, by controlling this role.
okay.
And if you see this role, and again, like everything else, it's configurable in the CloudFormation. But for mine, I have power user access so that the developer can do pretty much anything they need, short of admin, full admin. And then
Mhm.
there's a secondary custom role. And what this role is for, this was really important. This role keeps them from overriding the sandbox controls. So, I mean, policies,
Oh,
sorry, not role. So this policy, won't allow them to change the budget. It won't allow them to edit or delete the lambdas that are controlling the sandbox, et cetera, so that they can do what they
mhm.
need, but they can't go in and override the governance.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yep. And then if we'll quickly go into SNS, just open that in a new tab here, our simple notification service. And you will see there's these two topics that were created. Sandbox budget warning is when those alerts get published for hey, you're at 50, you're at 50%, 80%, whatever you want
Mhm.
there. Sandbox budget exceeded is where the notifications go for when you exceed that budget and we need to take action.
Can you show the budgets?
Yes, that is next. So you
Oh,
are
perfect.
into open a new tab. Yeah. Yeah, that was the next step here. I'm going to show the budget and then the lambdas because those are the primary parts here. So you see it's created this budget with
Mhm.
$100 budget, and nothing's been used yet because this is a new
Brand
account.
new.
Yeah. And you'll see the alerts. So it has an alert for
Ah.
50%, 80%, and 100%.
And the 100% goes to a different SNS.
Yes.
I didn't
So
even know you could do that. There you go. That's something new I learned.
yes. So the 50%, I have it go to this budget warning. So you
Mm.
could just go and subscribe to it and get text or emails if you want, right? If it is in there. And then sort of bring the alerts back up. And the 80% is the same thing. But then the 100%, right, is hey, we want to take action on that. And this is going to sandbox budget exceeded. And so the sandbox budget exceeded. There is that lambda that was on the architecture diagram that
Mhm.
is triggered when a message goes to that SNS, and
Right.
so and that is what is going to lock down the account. So let's go in here and show the lambda. So there's two lambdas: lockdown sandbox and restore sandbox.
Okay.
And the lockdown is what does the lockdown, restored is the restore. I'm going to go through these in just a minute, but quickly, I'm just going to show you what it looks like from the developer perspective. I'm going to switch roles to be the developer now. So
Ah.
I'm no longer the admin. So now I'm the developer. So I've got my new sandbox. And since I'm new to AWS, I'm using this for training. Well, what's the first thing everybody does? Oh, you get to create an S3 bucket, right? It's like there's already one here that I had created this morning. Should have deleted that, but I will. I'll create a new bucket. Should be able to do this because I'm a power user. So we'll just do timestamp here just to make sure it's unique. Don't need to fill anything else out. Create bucket. Yeah, I created a bucket. So great. I can actually
Easy.
do things in AWS. And I'll delete that other bucket that was already there just because I should be able to do that too. There we go.
Okay, so you got
This
you got full rights, full access right now. We don't, yeah, as
Yes,
good as
and
you
it would
need
be
to do.
the same if you were doing EC2 or RDS or anything else. It's just,
Mhm.
did a demo with the S3. And so now I'll go back into admin because we don't have time to run up $100 worth of cost in 5 minutes. So what I'll do is I'm going to run the Lambda manually
Okay.
to do that. Sorry, lost my Lambda tab here. So I'm going to run the lockdown sandbox, and you'll
Mhm.
see that normally it is triggered by the SNS, but I'm just going to run it directly. And it is just using Python, and it is a very simple Lambda. It's basically taking the power user access away, changing it to read only, Now, this is where you could, because it's Lambda, it's very flexible. So you could add other capabilities in here if you have some sort of Reaper to delete resources like you referenced, Steph, or do other activities. You can do that. But right now, we're just going to test this. So we're just going to run the Lambda, sort of simulate what would happen if you hit the threshold. It was successful. It says sandbox developer role set to read only. So let's verify that. So let me go back into S3. Oh, and I better switch back to developer because as admin, I will be able to do this. So now I'm the sandbox developer role again.
All right, let's
I see that bucket I created earlier. So I decided I want to delete that bucket. Oh,
blocks.
I don't have permissions. I did before, but I must have hit my threshold.
Yeah. What about create?
Yeah, create. So demo. Oh, same thing.
There we go.
So now you see, I've exceeded my budget, so I can no longer create, delete, whatever the resources. Again, you could edit it to your needs to allow people to delete things if you wanted, or to add a Reaper that deleted them automatically, or whatever other capability you wanted in that Lambda. But that's the experience from that developer, is they can do whatever they need until they hit their limit.
Yeah.
And then if we go in here, of course, because I switched IDs. So now we will go back quickly and do the restore sandbox, because we're not going to wait till November 1st. So same thing. There's a scheduled event in EventBridge that runs at midnight on the 1st of every month to automatically restore access.
Right.
But again, just like the other Lambda, we're going to run this manually since it's not the 1st yet.
And hopefully you'll be able to deploy as much as you like.
Yep, there we go. Access restored. Let me go back into S3 and switch back to developer. So now I'm developer. Now it's November 1st. And I see, I want to get rid of that bucket that I didn't want in the first place, but I couldn't delete. Hit my budget. Now I can delete it.
Well
and I
done.
want to create a new bucket to replace it. And there you go, it's successful. So that was how that in a nutshell, that's how the sandbox works, right? You saw, so we walked through, right, creating the account using AWS Control Tower Account Factory with customization, so we could do that blueprint, right? Then we saw, we simulated what happens when the sandbox user exceeds their budget by manually running the Lambda, and you saw that you could no longer do anything in the account, read only. And then we saw what happens at the beginning of the month, excuse me, when it restores the sandbox, their budget goes back to 0, and then they get their access back so they can do what they need. So that's pretty much the solution end to end. And if we go here,
and I'll just grab that link. Check out the blog down below.
Yeah, I was about to show that. Yeah, so this is the blog. So it was just about a year ago, a little more, that I published this blog, and this goes into greater detail, explaining the reasons for this architecture, and it also has if you go through the walkthrough, it will walk you through step by step how to do what I just did. And remember, again, a core thing here is because of the use of CloudFormation for the infrastructure and the roles and everything else, and then the Lambdas for that lockdown and restore, that gives you the ability to use the solution as is, but then edit it to your needs by changing the CloudFormation or changing those Lambdas, based off of what your organization wants.
Marvelous. And one last question before we go to Richard's summary. Can you do this in Terraform instead of CloudFormation?
Yes, you can. I don't have a Terraform template that I've created for this, but you can create service catalog products in Terraform, as of, I guess, a couple of years ago. I don't remember the exact date when we enabled that. But yes, if you were a Terraform customer, you could do the same thing. But, right now I don't have a
Yeah.
Terraform available.
No worries.
That CloudFormation version, though, is available in AWS samples, and that link
Perfect.
is in the blog post.
Great. And there's been some chat going on about Tag Explorer, and so I'll add any links that are referenceable in the YouTube video below. But finally, for our Richard summary at the end, I'll bring Alex back if he's not too surprised about. Oh, he's still on thing. He's ready. Hey, Alex, welcome back. I'll bring you in for the last bit of Richard's summary. So in the summary, Secret Richard is listening, and he will bring up a summary of the key points. And hopefully a funny way for me to read out, which I haven't seen. Here we go. Let's pull us down here. Number one, FinOps people are a key to success and deserve a raise. Did you hear that, Alex? We deserve a raise. Centralized controls help to build cost awareness, and Grant Solution creates sandbox accounts that are as they were meant to be created. I love that. That is the reason we have them, so that you can have stuff in there, but also get rid of them as much as you need to. Okay, that is it for us this week. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thank you to my marvelous guests. As a reminder, next week we are doing a Halloween spooktacular episode of Twitch, so make sure you come back to us next Thursday to watch that live and join in and watch me try and scare Svan out as we get a whole host of guests bringing in some spooky ideas. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.